I know this is around 15 minutes, but please take the time before you vote on May to watch this and listen closely. This is a wake-up call for all Scots. It's a week to go till the voting closes, and the stark reality is a vote for the SNP, Alba, and even their wee cohorts, the Greens, could drag Scotland into a divisive and alienating independence referendum. If by some outside chance, and it is an outside chance, that the separatists are somehow successful, where will this new independent Scotland find the money to pay our share of the national debt? The national debt today stands at a whopping 2.2 trillion, with a T, trillion. And although it's always been high, COVID has seen it reach new heights. Our First Minister, Nicola Sturgeon, has kindly offered a 4% increase to our marvellous, amazing NHS workers. And don't forget giving the kids extra money, bikes, laptops, and a whole list, a litany of other manifesto pledges. All this would be great, except our First Minister has got no track record of delivering anything except despair and degradation, as our own constituency, Govan Hill, would show anyone with eyes. Please go and see it for yourself. She's succeeded in fooling Scotland into believing that she's handled the COVID emergency better than other parts of the UK. Examine the facts. This is completely untrue. Completely false. Nicola Sturgeon has used and abused this pandemic to make herself a household name by grandstanding every day on a COVID podium. She could have delegated anyone to do it and to get on with running the actual affairs of the country. It's a cynical and contrived tactic to put herself front and centre. Nicola Sturgeon going out there every day during the COVID briefings is like Steven Gerrard talking to the Rangers fans for hours every day. Who's training the team? Well, who's running the country? She could have sent anyone to do it, but she purposely put herself in the shop window. And let's be honest, she's just repeating herself over and over again. Cynical and shameful. I would even go so far as to say the timing of this lockdown easing, right as the election approaches, is extremely, extremely suspect. Wake up, Scotland, please. And don't ever forget, the SNP have allowed COVID positive patients to enter care homes, like Typhoid Marys, wiping out whole communities of vulnerable elderly. Elderly that was supposed to be shielded, supposed to be protected. Elderly that the SNP politicians like Angus Robertson and Tommy Sheppard said that by dying off, it would help the independence cause. That it was a gain for independence. Think about that for a second. Coincidence? I don't believe in coincidences. Wake up, Scotland, please. Now, the elderly are only at one end of the spectrum. At the other end, we've got the young. By and large, most kids under 18 may vote for independence, or else why would the SNP have introduced them to voting in the first place? We know the SNP to be very clever at electioneering and the political gamesmanship. They've had 14 years practice. The SNP would never have engineered for a youth that age to vote unless they were certain of a majority voting in favour of independence. Without children voting and old people dying, the SNP could never win a majority. And that's a fact. Think about that for a second, please. Without children voting and old people dying, the SNP could never win a majority. They're asking 16-year-olds to vote on the fate of the country. 16-year-olds that can't watch an 18 movie. That can't get a tattoo. Think about it. Wake up, Scotland, please wake up. Would you risk your children's future on the roll of a dice? A gamble is exactly what independence is. A complete gamble. It'll cleave a nation in two. Right down the middle. Grands, granddads, mums, dads, brothers, sisters, all on different sides. Please tell your kids between the ages of 16 and 18 not to vote. Yes, not to vote. To wait a while and let the over 18s decide this. That way, the burden is such a mistake, it will not lie on the shoulders of Scotland's children. And this isn't being disrespectful to youth. It's protecting the youth. That's what adults are meant to do. Without under 18s voting, the SNP will lose, and they know it. It shows that it will go to any length to meet their objective, including using children as simple tools. Wake up, Scotland, please. And if that's not enough for you, Sturgeon's removed the right to vote from natural-born Scots out with Scotland, unlike the rest of the UK, and given the right to vote to folk who have not got a British passport, who haven't officially become a resident, and they didn't even have a permanent right to stay here. As I mentioned before, under 18s can vote here in Scotland, but these same under 18s can't vote in the rest of the UK. The First Minister is creating her own voters, cultivating school children, allowing prisoners to vote, and making sure they're rewarded with mobile phones behind bars. Criminals who cannot vote in any other part of the UK, but they can vote right here in Scotland. Immigrants are also promised the world, and Nicola harvests their votes every single election cycle. The cult of the SNP and Nicola Sturgeon is fuelled by throwing empty promises into a huge, gigantic furnace. The opposition parties have no way, no means to access this pool of voters because they've got no power. So this will continue infinitely until we live in a complete dictatorship with no escape besides leaving Scotland itself. And didn't bother speaking out either, as the cult of control, the religion of control, already has power over your speech and language. It's sad, isn't it? Wake up, Scotland, please. And if by some disaster the vote comes in favour of independence, half the country will be dragged out of the Union against their will. Little to no difference with Scotland being dragged out of Europe against its will. So only half the country will celebrate, while the other half are left worrying. Then a long wait will ensue until Europe replaces Westminster. That's if we even qualify for entry into the European Union in the first place, which is, again, highly doubtful. The world's economy is on a knife edge and badly fractured. Now more than ever, it's clearly and obviously not the time to divide a nation. But the SNP press on regardless. We should indeed revisit the question in 10 years or more. But you know, an actual generation. You remember the once in a generation lie? Wake up, Scotland, please. And staying on the EU for a moment. The Scottish Government faces a penalty of up to 190 million because of irregularities in spending hundreds of millions in euro funds stretching back 6 years. So let me get this straight. The organisation that Nicola would have us join is penalising Scotland for spending irregularities. That's like trying to join a golf club and the golf club already knows that you're a raging cheater at the game. You really think they're going to let you join? Nah, I don't think so. Wake up, Scotland, please. The SNP's first attempt at independence in 2014, oil was mentioned ad nauseum, constantly. And seeing now that the price of oil has fell through the flare, Nicola has dropped the word oil from her vocabulary. Maybe she's just forgotten again. We all know how forgetful she can be at times. She's honestly on par with my gran who's got dementia. Except with Nicola, it's highly selective. Anyone who watched her give evidence at the Salmond inquiry would know her propensity to be forgetful. I don't recall, I have no recollection, a shameful and see-through performance. Wake up, Scotland, please. The SNP and Nicola's administration have proven beyond any reasonable doubt that they're unfit to manage the finances of Scotland. The SNP have proven totally inept in every possible department, financially, ethically, morally. I say morally because if you know what John Swinney's curriculum teaches your kids, you'd border on being sick and you'd want to pull your children out of the school. The SNP is actively siphoning the innocence out of your children like sick vampires feeding on innocence and purity. A party that's besieged with countless sex scandals, sleaziness that's off the Richter scale, while they whistle and skip happily along, ushering Scotland into a dystopian nightmare, a brave new world, a 1984 hellscape. Wake up, Scotland, please, dear God, wake up. Nicola Sturgeon does indeed intend to march us right into uncertainty and right into the unknown with independence. she shouldn't even be allowed to use the word independence. Why? Because in reality, she wants to divorce one union, the UK, and marry another, the European Union. Ask yourself, how is that possibly independence? It's not. If she wanted to be clear and concise, she would say divorce or separate rather than independence. But sadly, that's not her style. I think Nicola's taken social distancing a bit too much to heart, as it intends to socially distance 5.4 million people for the rest of the Union. Wake up, Scotland, please. There's no financial argument to show that independence has any chance whatsoever of working. None whatsoever. If Brexit has taught us anything, it's how hard divorce is. Scotland has no politicians capable of negotiating an exit for the Union. None. Negotiating an exit for the Union, dividing up the fishing waters, creating borders, roads, airports, embassies abroad, a new currency, and a whole raft of other issues like pensions, the army, the navy, the RAF, or security services that protect our very way of life. Listen, 60% of Scotland's trade is with other union members. Something like 16% with the rest of Europe. Then it's China and America. In addition to all that, about 750,000 mortgages are with English finance institutions. A large number would simply position themselves in England. So if we were to have a separate currency, we would need to have an exchange rate. So if it costs you 2% on the exchange rate from Scottish pounds to English pounds, then your mortgage just went up 2% like that. And you see what I'm saying here? This will be a disaster. Wake up, Scotland, please. There is absolutely no rational thought process that could possibly make the case for Scotland succeeding on its own. And furthermore, there's no need to risk it. We're simply better together, safer together. And besides, we've already voted 2.1 million to 1.6 million in favour of staying in the Union. If you're really convinced, if you're truly convinced about voting for independence, then SNP and Alba will try to get you. But please, for the sake of today's children in Scotland, and for those children yet unborn, take an hour out of your life and look closely at Nicola Sturgeon and the SNP's record. Look at Alex Salmond's record. Forget Labour, forget the Tories, forget the Liberals, and even forget my party, All for Unity. Be guided by the facts. The truth is, I love Scotland more than I love myself. I love the freedom that Great Britain affords me. I'm already independent as a person, and so are you. When Scotland plays England, you know, the old enemy, I proudly fly the Saltire and scream and shout, desperate to score, hoping that we win. But regardless of the result, I head home with my precious Saltire, feeling proud of being Scottish and feeling safe as a member of the British Empire. I'm giving you this dire warning because now I'll be able to sleep at night, knowing that I've tried my best to warn as many Scots as possible. Last year, Nicola Sturgeon said, judge me on education. Judge me on my record. She promised to kill off and end council tax. Blatant lie. Education, my wee niece can hardly read or write. It's unbelievably shocking. I've warned you about the possible repercussions of independence. I've warned you about the fact it's not even independence. I've warned you about trying to rejoin the EU. I've warned you about the SNP's cult of control, the controlling language. I've warned you about the SNP's record of abject failure. I've warned you about the SNP's electioneering and political gamesmanship. I've warned you about the care home scandals, the deaths. I've warned you about Scotland's security. I've warned you about the SNP's record of broken promises. And I've warned you about the constant SNP sex scandals. I've warned you about the sordid, swinny curriculum sapping Scottish children of their innocence. I've warned you about it all. And now it's time to wake up. Scotland, please wake up. For the sake of us all, please, dear God, wake up.